Okay, hi. You will have two ways of dealing with this. One of them is that having the video on mute and listening to whatever song that you desire. And the second one is listening to me yap about existential crises and whatnot. So the choice is yours wherever you want to try, and also do not pay attention to how I'm choosing to play this. The skill issue is in the title for a reason. This is obviously an attempt at trying to do DPS Robin, and I will link some sources below for some references and videos that you can watch if you want to make the same team work. Now, I did manage to make the same work on the previous MOC against Kafka. I got 2 cycles and it was really nice, and I got confident. I thought maybe I can do it again. As you can see, no. And also, there will be inevitably some background noises, so I apologize for them in advance. There's many subjects that I want to go through, and I am well aware of the dangers and the risks of putting yourself out there on the internet, but I'll try to be as open as possible, and I'll probably put trigger warnings, timestamps, everything, and my mind is all over the place, so this is going to be very messy. I apologize I apologize for that as well. Did I say that right? I have no idea. Okay. Human problems are very strange because whenever you try to look into yourself and see and look for the root of the problems that are immobilizing you and are causing problems in your daily life, it tends to come down to very grand subjects that are way over your scope of ability to grasp and understand. They're philosophical, they're psychological, okay. They're psychological, they're cosmic, even, I don't fucking know, they're very social, and there are just so many factors that are out of your reach. And looking around, because that's what we do, we take in information, we try to process it, and we try to nitpick the data that would apply to us, that would be useful to us, and then apply it to our daily life. We try to replicate, to try to find similarities between us and our kid, and it all seems useless at the end of the day, because as predictable and as clone-like humankind are, as predictable and as we are all so similar, and at the same time there are a million factors that go into someone turning the way that they do, and one of those single factors is going to be the detriment. That single factor is going to be the reason why something works for them and not for you. And so the pursuit, the search for something to soothe this ever-present gaping hole inside your heart, it feels so futile, because we are all so close, we're all so dependent on each other, but there seems to be this unbreakable, massive, gargantuan, horrifying wall between all of us, because yes, there is solace, there is solidarity, but there are no two people in the world that could completely understand each other's experience, and that is simply the property that comes with the concept of individuality. And it depends on the person if you want to keep that individuality or if you want companion. You can have both, like if you're someone healthy, but most people on the planet are not healthy. Most people, there are so many issues going on because of it. It's a cycle. I'm just blabbering. I don't think I'll be able to. Someone's fucking calling me. Excuse me. Okay, so as I was saying, this is all over the place, and I think it's one of those situations where you just bottle up everything and you have this massive ass closet with all this shit in your room and you have to organize it or else you're gonna get whooped. So you shove all of it in the closet and then close it with your ass and then hope that by some magic no one is curious enough to open it, and then someone just lightly taps the handle and then everything comes crashing down. And what I'm looking at right now is a mess. It's something like that, and it doesn't have anything to do with Starrel, if I'm being honest, but one of the reasons why it was triggered was because not the Robin run, but the first run. I was trying to get a 1 cycle on the first half, and it took me so long. It wasn't even because for Robin to have more chances to have more cycles to do her thing. I knew that I couldn't possibly clear with Robin with my level of investment and with my level of skill. Like, maybe if I had 3 S5 DDDs I could, but I can't. Like, I am aware of my limitations, I am aware of my capabilities and the extent of my knowledge. So looking at what I have, I knew what I could do. And looking at the first half, I knew what I had and I knew what I could do, and I couldn't do it. And it was very frustrating. And it just led me down this rabbit hole. Perfection is a curious case because it's so ridiculously subjective. Do I have to hold my finger on this? Can I let go? Okay, I can't. Fuck this shit. What do you mean? What do you mean I have to keep my finger on it? Alright, we're gonna have to work with that, but where was I? Yeah, perfection. Perfection is a very curious thing. I thought I had recovered, but I don't think I have, and it's more common than people realize, and it's the type of perfection that makes people end up in places where they're looked down on, they're seen as lazy, they're seen as unenthusiastic, where it's simply that you look around and you assess your surroundings and yourself, again, your resources, your capabilities, your opportunities, and the end result in your mind, you're able to calculate it and you know that you won't be able to execute that thing perfectly. I got emotional for a second there, I apologize. It usually comes down to our disability, to our faulty judgment in being able to assess all these factors and include them when we want to make a comparison, when we try to set out a plan, to set out a goal. It has to be realistic, of course. And sometimes it's difficult to come to terms with your own limitations. Sometimes your brain tricks you into thinking that just because others could do it with the same level of, again, and I say investment because that's the term that I usually use for my game, but your brain looks around and sees people seemingly in your situation, but as I said before, no 2 people, there are no 2 fucking people on the planet that experience life the same. And your brain tricks you into thinking that you look around, you see your peers, you see your classmates, you see your people in college, people at work, relatives, anything, and they all seem to be ahead of you. And it is so disheartening because, believe it or not, you are doing your best. There is no one in the planet that cares for you more than you do. There's no one on the planet that knows you more than you do. You know what works for you best. You know if you try and do something, if it's gonna work or not. Now sometimes disorders and problems are going to fuck up with that, but that's a story for another day, and I'm not a psychiatrist. If you're checking this as genuine advice, you need help. Okay, going back to whatever the fuck was I, what was I talking about? Factors, investment, looking around, comparison. It is very disheartening. It weighs you down. It does more harm than good. And I know how it feels to look around, feel like everyone is on some sort of an excavator, or is it an excavator? It's one of those, English is not my first language, so pardon me. It's one of those stairs that moves on its own. It's like they're on the opposite side where it's going up, and you're not stagnant. Being stagnant in life means staying behind, which is the most terrifying thing to think about, but that is just the reality of it. But sometimes, when you have so many issues, when you have so many baggage, if you try to get yourself up there, it's just gonna rip up all the baggage that you have, and all the things that you've worked for are gonna roll down and be lost. So it's best for you to sit there, watch people go away, and be ahead of you until you figure out a way to get yourself on the other side. And acceptance is bitter. Acceptance is the worst part. And I am struggling to accept. And this is I don't know what it is. It's a rant, it's a shit post, it's whatever the fuck it is. It felt like I didn't really have a choice but to let it out, because the last time that I had a feeling about this, to put myself out there, was way back, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, where I woke up at the middle of the night, as one does, and I was hungry, and I made a bunch of snacks for myself. And when you're living with other people, you don't really question where, if new things appear in the house, you're like, oh, probably X and Y got it or something. If it's daytime, you can ask. If it's nighttime, you just ignore it till the next day. And I opened the fridge, and there were groceries, and I made up something, and I ate it, and I went back to sleep. And the next day when I woke up, I was informed that the food belonged to a man that had tragically passed away because he had kidney problems, and his family had left him behind because he couldn't work anymore and he wasn't functional anymore. My apologies, I got emotional again. So this guy was a very successful man, and he had a family, and they were happy, and then his kidneys shut down and he wasn't able to work anymore, and then his family left because they had to eat and he couldn't provide enough. And then he sat in his house and he refused to take his meds, and then he died there alone. And people found him and was emptying his house, and there were still groceries in his house, and he was a relative, so some of his groceries ended up in our fridge, and I didn't know, and I ended up consuming them, and I couldn't think about what he had been thinking while buying those groceries. Now, again, trying to tie up this entire video, it is simply impossible, but trying to tie this back to religious trauma is a huge leap, but not really, because back then, when they tried to teach you about being grateful, about counting your blessings, they used to show you the unfortunate. They used to show you people that didn't have enough, that struggled, that were born in a way that fucked with their life, that just made them inherently miserable. And instead of feeling empathy and feeling like, oh, I should help this person, the primary feeling that they were encouraging you to feel was that, thank God that that's not me. And the child's mind is very malleable. It's so absorbent. And I vividly remember looking at the unfortunate, looking them in the eyes and thinking to myself that, thank God that I am not you. So my personal reason for recording this was that haunting, ever-present feeling of inadequacy and incompetence that plagues all of us. All of us. In some, it is more severe than others, and the reason why I explained that, like I told you that story, is that I haven't felt that kind of emptiness for a while now, until now. So I'm recording this. At that time, I had this revelation where I was like, I'm just gonna live life differently. I'm gonna live for the experience, not for the achievements. And a couple years later, I find myself in the same pit and feeling the same kind of emptiness, except this time there are no dead man food that I can eat to pull myself out of it. And I don't know what to do. And I had to express it somewhere, and it felt unfair to bother friends, families, acquaintances with something like this, because as deeply disturbing as it is, it still feels mundane. It still feels so simple. It's something that so many people struggle with. Just get over it, toughen up, whatever. But people are born with different strengths, and sometimes I do wonder if the natural selection, the survival of the fittest, was still as prevalent as it was before. I wouldn't have been here, and that would have been for the better. But I am here, and my absence would cause harm to certain people, and I don't want that to happen. So I had an outlet for the feeling that I'm feeling. And if you're wondering, no, I couldn't beat Hule with DPS Robin. Like, if you're watching it for that, I'm gonna put it on the screens somewhere. I'm not gonna make it a clickbait. But I needed footage, and this was the longest footage that I had. As I said, it's like a couple hours long. It's it's ridiculous. But that's pretty much it. And I hope to fuck you're not feeling the same. And I hope you're healthy. I hope you find contentment, and I hope you feel right wherever you are. So, thank you for watching. Bye bye.
El bullying no es bueno, solamente destruye el alma y el cerebro.